Hello folks, I'm John Myrie and welcome to the Wisconsin Northland Outdoors. On this week's show we have reports and tips for you from Jarrett McCarthy down at Hayward Bait and Bottle. And then we talk spring fishing again with Hayward Area Fishing Guide Erik Thue. Lots to cover on this week's show, all coming up right after these messages.
Spring is the time to launch yourself up off the couch and get outside with a new Can-Am ATV or side-by-side from Hayward Power Sports. Hurry in for a very limited number of select model 2023 side-by-sides that offer up to $3,000 in rebates plus financing as low as 1.49% for 36 months. Want an example of a smoking hot deal on a 2023 side-by-side? Here it is. You could take home a Can-Am Commander DPS 700 for under $13,700. ATV lovers, the new 2024s are in stock and ready to hit the trails. Pick up a Can-Am Outlander with special financing as low as 1.49% for 36 months. Or you could take home a new 2024 Can-Am Outlander 700 DPS ATV for just $168 per month. Life is not a spectator sport. Start participating today with a new Can-Am ATV or side-by-side from Hayward Power Sports, just 10 minutes east of Hayward on Highway 77.
Certain restrictions apply. Subject to credit approval. See dealer for details.
Riding along in my automobile.
Bumping into things unexpectedly? Make your first choice for collision repair. Ernie's Auto Body, featuring the most advanced collision repair facility in Northwest Wisconsin. With a state-of-the-art spray bake down draft paint booth for that better-than-new finish, laser technology for precision frame alignment, loaner cars available, computerized estimates, written guarantees, and documented unmatched customer service, the clear choice is Ernie's Auto Body, south of Hayward on Highway 63 and Nursery Road, where quality is no accident.
Lynn's Custom Meats and Catering welcomes you to stop by for their great lunch menu. And while you're there, Lynn's also has a great selection of custom cut meats and sausages, as well as many varieties of snack sticks, jerky, fresh cheese curds, and much more. Lynn's is open Mondays through Fridays from 9 to 5:30 and 9 to 4 on Saturdays. Lynn's Custom Meats and Catering in Hayward.
Today, anglers fish longer. Today, anglers fish harder. Today, anglers rely more than ever on their electronics. It all comes down to catching more fish, and today, anglers rely on Amped Outdoors lithium batteries, period. Visit ampedoutdoors.com today to power your outdoor experience.
We're down at Hayward Bait and Bottle talking to Jarrett McCarthy, and Jarrett, we're getting closer and closer and closer to that fishing opener.
Really, really close. I mean, by the time this airs, we'll probably have about a week or so to go, not even, and it'll be time out there.
Well, you know, a lot of people out fishing right now, too, it seems like. You know, that cool down kept a few people off, and it's been terrible windy, it seems like.
It really has, but, I mean, I'll take the little bit of cold weather and wind over more snow.
Yeah, you bet. You know, I've had some good fishing out there for smallmouth bass, and I've caught some crappies, and I've hearing reports of other guys, too.
Yeah, yep, I've seen some pictures. I've heard some reports. Some guys out there, even with the cold front conditions, they're out there getting some crappies or what have you. They're starting to move in a little bit. Depends on what you have for a water temp and what you got out there for a lake right now. But, yeah, fish are being caught.
Well, I seen the water temperature actually drop a little bit. It was up and then dropped a little bit, but it's kind of stable, and I think it's going to be slowly warming here between now and the opener. And I'm thinking we're going to see a lot of, you know, post-spawn action from walleyes out there.
Yeah, I think so too. Good news for all the anglers. I mean, you know, last couple of years we still had ice at this point. We were waiting for ice out. Usually it came the week, you know, just prior to opener. So anything that we can get out and do right now, you know, smallie, largemouth, panfish right now, and then obviously, yeah, we got walleye right around the corner.
Yeah, actually get out there. You can kind of look for your areas, too, and try to find where you want to go on opener.
Absolutely. It's really nice. You can go out and do a lot of homework beforehand. You know, you can't really target walleye or northern or anything like that right now, but you can go out and you can mark them. You can set your waypoints out there, and then as soon as, you know, time comes to calling, you're ready to roll.
You bet. You know, and smallmouth I know has been good, and I'm hearing some reports too on largemouth. Are you?
I'm not hearing anything on largemouth. I've seen a lot of pictures of smallies so far, but just smallies and crappies.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about you know, other fishing. I know there's been some river fishing going on too.
Yeah, seeing some guys up there doing pretty well on the Brule. There's some guys up there fishing the big lake still, doing some trolling, doing some casting. We've heard that the smelts have been going up there, so plenty of guys, you know, out and about in the water catching some smelt and pitching around the smelt for anything that's following the smelt. But yeah,
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of walleyes and pike and everything else that seem to follow those smelt in when they come.
Yep, follow the food. That's the name of the game.
It always is when it comes to fishing, one of the things. I know crappies and panfish, that's open year-round, and there have been some people out there catching some crappies. I know you had reports on that, too?
Yeah, yep, we have. Past couple of days, we've seen guys getting out there, anywhere from 8 to 15 feet of water catching crappies over the weeds right now. We had a really mild winter and not a whole lot of snow, so a lot of those weed beds out there, it's not going to take much for them to come back, and it's great because it offers some fish some structure out there, some place to go and hide before they're ready to come up into the shallow water, and that's one of the key areas to be targeting this time of the year.
And traditionally a lot of people go for a little crappie minnow on a hook, and that'll work, but sometimes you catch just as many fish, if not more, with different plastics.
Yeah, absolutely. I had some customers in here over the weekend, and we were talking about different crappie plastics, and I had them come back, and they're like, yeah, we went out and we got some on plastics, and then we went back through the area, and caught some on like little crappie minnows, and that's a perfect tactic. You go through with your plastics and you catch those really active fish and you find where they are, and then as soon as you've caught everything you can on plastics, then you go to live baits, something with some smell, something with a little bit of wiggle, let some slip bobbers float through, and you catch those more timid fish.
Any tips for our listeners out there on rigging up the plastics and the type of stuff you should be looking for?
As far as fishing for crappies out there with your plastics, or every plastic's a little bit different, and it's kind of all prone on what you want it to do for action in the water, but depends on what kind of hook size you got too, what kind of jig size you got. But if you're looking to get into plastic fishing, you want to stop on by and take a look at all the plastics that we've got here, we'd be happy to rig a couple of them for you and get you out fishing. As far as your minnow presentation or whatever, I see a lot of guys that like to hook their minnows through the bottom jaw of the minnow or what have you, and I don't think the minnows last a whole lot long when you're putting that hook right through the upper lip. So I usually like to go right behind the dorsal fin and let that minnow just kind of swim around on there. They stay pretty active like that.
In fishing anything you're fishing, I think you like plastics or like marabou jigs, anything should have tentacles on it that really kind of flutter real easy in the water. You can kind of get an idea. Just hold your jig over the side of the boat and watch it. Try to hold it still, and you're amazed how much action. I think a lot of people overwork the crappie and panfish stuff.
They do, and it's pretty easy to do if you're new with plastic fishing. It does not take a lot of movement. We were just talking about trying to hold something still. There's no way on earth that you can try to hold a plastic still, but because you still got a little shake in your hand. But those plastics, they are super sensitive, and they are really, really, a lot of the plastics are really, really lifelike just with a little bit of movement. So no need to jerk it really hard or move it really, really fast. You're going to scare a lot of fish off like that. So just nice, calm, gentle presentations.
And you guys are geared up down here at the store. Lots of new stuff in here.
Absolutely. We're just about done with the shop. We're putting our finishing touches on the musky wall this year, but holy smokes, do we have some good selection down here this year.
Thanks, Jared, for coming in here and talking to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, John.
Well, folks, we need to take a break right now and hear from some of the fine sponsors that bring this show to you every week. And when we come back, we'll be talking spring fishing with fishing guide Erik Thue. So stay tuned. We'll be back right after these messages. Hayward Bait and Bottle is your one-stop for the Hayward area's largest selection of rods, reels, lures, fishing electronics, boating supplies, and much more. Whether you fish for bass, walleyes, panfish, or muskies, gear up for the upcoming fishing season. And if you're getting ready for the spring turkey season too, they also have just about everything you'll need for a successful season. In the bottle shop, you'll find a full selection of beer and liquor. Hayward Bait and Bottle is your one-stop sport and bottle shop.
The Hayward Lakes Visitors and Convention Bureau in Sawyer County, Wisconsin welcomes you to our Northwoods hometown. No matter the season, no matter the activity, you'll always be surrounded by our great outdoors. What more could you ask for in a vacation destination? Woods, waters, world-class events. Contact us for information on lodging, dining, attractions, events, trail conditions, and more. Order your free vacation guide and start planning your getaway today. Visit us at haywardlakes.com or call 1-800-724-2992.
The fishing opener is May 4th. Race to your favorite fishing hole in a new Lund from Hayward Power Sports. We have an awesome selection, rigged and ready in our outdoor showroom. You'll find the 1650 Angler, the 1775 Impact, the 1875 Crossover, and many more. Buy one today and claim huge Hayward Power Sports discounts up to $7,500. Plus, we'll even include free storage for next winter. Come see us at Hayward Power Sports, just 10 minutes east of Hayward on Highway 77.
Welcome back to another segment of this week's Wisconsin Northland Outdoors, and this part of the show is brought to you by the Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau. For more information on lodging and vacationing here in the Hayward Lakes area, check out their website at haywardlakes.com. Well, folks, open water fishing is upon us now, and people are getting out on our lakes. And on this week's show, I had a chance to talk again with Hayward area fishing guide Erik Thue about spring fishing and some great tips. Erik, great to have you on the show here again. It's been a few weeks since you've been on.
Yeah, always a pleasure, John.
You know, it's getting closer and closer and closer now to the opening of fishing, but we got open water, and I know I've been out there a little bit, and you've been out, and the fishing's actually pretty good out there, despite we had a little setback with a little cold spell come back to it.
Yeah, a little cold spell, and, the one good thing was that, we saw some precipitation. Any precip at this point in time in the game is good, so it looks like we have a little bit more in the forecast and stuff, but things are well underway, of course. As open water, we have a lot of options for anglers to be able to get out in the spring this time of the year, whether it's on the lakes or on the rivers.
And I don't see any real cold in the forecast long term, so I think it's going to be clear sailing from here on through, I hope anyhow. But, let's start out with talking about the rivers a little bit. I mean, the river fishing is actually good because the water's not super high out there.
Right, yeah. So, for a lot of maybe if you're new to river fishing, probably actually the best way to learn a river is actually with lower levels. So then you start to learn where all the pools and the holes are. So then if you do go back when it is higher water, you kind of got a lay of the land without, having this something that's maybe just a little bit, hard to pinpoint where you want to be in the river. When it's lower, it'll be a little easier to know, okay, this is where I should be fishing. But yeah, it's conditions are really good right now. We have a lot of various opportunities. Obviously, we have a catch and release trout season that's currently underway. That will change come with the general fishing opener. And we have some of our tributaries like the Boise Brule that is available for anglers to get out steelhead fishing.
And you mentioned a couple things important there, holes and in the way the river is made up with pockets and holes and stuff. And, the water level in the river is a lot of times what dictates where the fish are going to be. I mean, when you got high water, is different than when low water.
High water, they'll be in places where, you generally you'd never fish that, or where you might be standing half the time, and, I think there's just these new available areas for these fish to be able to spread out a little bit more. When things are low, it's going to be, they might be a little more consolidated in some of the pools and stuff like that. But, now too, as we see, we have some, like you said, we've had some really nice weather, the things are progressing. We are seeing, mayflies starting to hatch on the rivers. Some of our very first hatches, which, maybe a little early, but, things are happening. So it's, take advantage of the beautiful spring that we do have.
Bet, and you got to think about current when you're in the water, because current is everything. I mean, just like we wouldn't want to go out and run a marathon 24/7. The fish doesn't either. They want it. They'll set up where there's less current. And when we're talking about the holes in the current flow, a lot of times when you mention their fish are where sometimes you're standing, yep. That's where there's less current along the shorelines, and those fish will go there. Yep. Whereas as the water slows down, and they'll go out in the deeper holes, and they'll get, a lot of times we're out behind boulders and rocks. And look for eyes. That's one thing about river fishing. You don't need $10,000 of electronics.
Just use your eyes. Yep. Yeah, just your eyes. And, it's these things with, what John and I were talking about, the basics of reading a river. These things take time, and it takes, time on the water. But you can learn a lot from that. And, even like with John mentioning with like the lower water and, being able to, oh, wow, there is a tree that's right in that, nice slot there. And now, well, when the water's up, that tree's underwater. It's still a great fishing spot because it's structure. But, we can gain a lot of information just by using our eyes and getting out there.
Yeah, a lot of good opportunities to get out and river fishing. And, there's not as much traffic on the rivers as there, nowadays you get out on the lakes in the summertime and man, there's all kinds of recreational traffic out there.
Yeah. And, there's certain parts of our rivers, we have some tubing and, other, water, canoeing and such like that does open up some more, people getting out there. But, if you take the time and, get out to some of these fishing locations and, put a little bit of boots on, on the ground and, cover some miles if you can. And, it's not too hard to get away from people. And if you run into someone, just as much as the next angler would like, you give them space and let them have their little area to fish. And, you can always come back, so.
You bet. Lots of miles of rivers up here that they aren't canoeing and tubing on. You might be the only canoe out there.
Yes, that is very true. Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about lake fishing. I mean, right now we're getting into where, we're getting some good smallmouth action for one and bass action on some of the lakes.
Yeah. As we've had, a early spring or, whatever winter was, we have this open water. We've had, temperatures that have been in the 50s, 60s, well, for a couple of weeks for the most part. And you're saying you saw 51, 52 on a body of water just, a couple days.
Yeah, a week ago.
Yeah. So, that's something, that, things are progressing. Things are getting, maybe a little sooner than what we would normally see. Sometimes that 52 water temp, depending on the makeup of the lake, that, is it a darker, clear body of water? Sometimes we don't see that till maybe mid-May for water temperatures. So things are a little early, but that's all right because we can start thinking about or even targeting smallmouth in some of these early season tactics that are, they're going to be hammering it. So
what one of the things you got to watch out for though is the temperature drops. And I mean, you mentioned we had 51 degrees and that same lake last night we were out on was 44 and 45.
Isn't that something?
And those fish were hugging the bottom and they were down there shivering, I think.
Yeah, well, just like us, feeling a little bit of that cold air, you kind of creep back. Everyone wants to hunker down. And fish are very similar in a manner like that too. Especially in the springtime. We're, as any of your listeners here, everything is water temperature, and that's what's going to, have happy fish. You can still catch them. You just got to, change up your tactics a little bit.
And that's the same thing is true with other fish too. I mean, crappies. I mean, a lot of people go crappie fishing and pan fishing this time of year, and you get a little bit later here, and the crappies will start to move into spawn. You get a major cold front, and they'll blow them right back out.
Oh yeah, I mean, cold front is I think the best way to put it is for anglers to go out and fish in it. And when it does happen, don't hesitate and be like, oh, it's a cold front day, it's not even worth fishing. No, go out there and fish and figure it out. Try to put those, that day, the puzzle pieces together, and you'll just become a more well-rounded angler, and you'll be ready for anything that Mother Nature throws at you while you're on the water then.
Can't catch fish if you're not fishing for them, and literally angler skills are everything out there, and you can have all the electronics and the fanciest equipment in the world, and if you don't have the angler skills, be able to read those fish, read the water, read the locations, and we'll figure out where the fish should be, and then try to figure out what it's going to take to catch them. You're wasting a lot of money buying all that equipment.
Yeah. It's, take the time and put the puzzle pieces together and, go through the tackle lineup, of, trying this, trying that, what maybe you have confidence in working, in the past, but try some of these new things, some of these new baits that are available, some of these new tactics that are available, and consider, some of those tactics for the given type of conditions and time of the year, and you'll be a better angler the next day.
Well, folks, we need to take yet another break and hear from even more of the fine sponsors that make the show possible every week. When we come back, we'll have the second part of that talk we had with fishing guide Erik Thue. So stay tuned. We'll be back right after these messages. Hey folks, come on over to Hayward Ace Hardware and check out the area's largest selection of firearms, ammo, and accessories. We carry top brands like Browning and Sig Sauer, and we have a great selection of the newest and hard-to-find models. We've got a large selection of ammo with more coming in daily. If you need a scope, we carry great brands like Leupold, Hawk, and EOTech, and we'll even mount it and bore sight it for you too. We even sell suppressors and silencers. And don't forget to check out our Guns of the Week. Huge discounts on a variety of pistols, rifles, and shotguns that change every week. So stop on in to Hayward Ace Hardware, your firearms superstore. Hayward Ace Hardware, Highway 63 North in Hayward, or give us a call at 715-634-8700.
Hayward Animal Hospital is a full-service medical and surgical hospital featuring on-site laboratory, digital and dental x-ray, in-house pharmacy, and online store. Dr. Ostrander has 40 years of experience dealing with illnesses, injuries, surgery, and dentistry. Hayward Animal Hospital offers urgent care appointments and emergency surgery daily. Please call early in the day for these appointments. They open at 8 a.m. Hayward Animal Hospital is located 1 mile east of Hayward on Highway B. Call 715-634-8971.
Hey folks, the Log Cabin Store in Northwoods Beach on Highway K between the Big Lakes has groceries, ice, beer, liquor, and pop, and now has all new tackle and bait supplies. All current antiques and household items are now on sale and all must go to make room for the sport shop. That's at the Log Cabin Store in Northwoods Beach between the Big Lakes.
If you'd like to have your time fishing be more enjoyable and productive, hiring a fishing guide can be a good investment. Whether it's learning more about fish patterns throughout the year, learning how to use your depth finder to find the best spots and fish, learn how to use that GPS to get the most out of it, or learn better boat control. A day on the water with a guide can really help you to be a better angler, as well as make a day on the lake very enjoyable. To book a guide trip this year or get more information, you can find us on the internet at www.wiscnorthlandoutdoors.com and then just click on Area Guides.
Welcome back to the last segment of this week's Wisconsin Northland Outdoors. And folks, we're going to jump right back into the second part of that talk we had with Hayward Area Fishing Guide Erik Thue. You know, one of the things I get a kick out about is lately we've been seeing more than a handful of people screaming about the technology out there. They're screaming about 360 sonar. They're screaming about forward-facing sonar or live scope. Oh, everybody's going to buy it. They're going to go out and they're going to catch fish immediately. It don't work that way. If you don't have the angler skills, you can buy all that equipment, and it's not a surefire thing to catch fish.
You just look at fish then, from the screen. It's a really interesting topic of discussion. There has been a really interesting progression that we've seen. I remember back when I started working in a fishing, department store and, colored screens, a 5-inch, and GPS. Oh my gosh, that was a big deal. And, it's just amazing to see the leaps that we have made in that world of things. And it's a very opinionated topic right now. And I think it's good though, because it's getting anglers and people to talk about it. You don't have to agree with it. You can be whichever side of the coin you want to go, but just recognize that, hey, this is a good reason for us to be talking about these things and talking about, our regulations and all that stuff. It's important,
I'm actually glad we've got GPS because I started out the old way, and you line up this bird bath with this window or corner of the house or the outhouse with something. And then we got LORAN units, which were the precursor to GPS units, and then GPS. It's a good thing we've got the GPS because all of our little landmarks are gone because all this new property and people building new houses and stuff, they tore down those outhouses. They tore down the bird baths and, changed the house. So now you got no place to line up on.
Well, yeah. And I could only imagine, trying to tool around on the Chippewa flowage before there was, a bathymetric map at your fingertips on a screen to show you exactly where you are to exactly what depth you're at without having to relay on the 2D, graph as you're zipping along. And heck, just to be able to get back, you'd otherwise have to know that body of water pretty good. Otherwise, you're going to get turned around.
Well, you said map. That, in my opinion, then the mapping that we've got nowadays available on everything, including your phone. So you can get the mapping is the number one thing, more than GPS, more than side imaging, forward-facing sonar. Mapping is the key thing that took more people to spots because there were a lot of spots on lakes that nobody knew were there until all of a sudden they showed up on a map.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you start, putting the pieces together again and, hey, you know what? We caught fish on that. Now you can see the structure of where you're catching fish. And, well, now you start looking at the lake as a whole. Hey, there's 4 or 5 other spots that are really similar to that just by the availability of a map. It's amazing. And it really, really helps, along with, being able to fish a spot proficiently, but boat control. The map is right there to be able to keep your boat in position, run a contour line that, something to follow, basically. It is such a helpful tool.
You bet. Well, let's talk about a couple other things here, too. We're going to be in the walleye opener pretty soon, and walleye fishing, I think, is going to be pretty decent up here because I think we're going to have a lot of post-spawn fish.
Yeah, I think, the way that the spring has progressed, I would agree with you. I think majority of these fish are going to be in a post-spawn. Now, you do get a slow taper of some fish that are still spawning late. That always seems to happen no matter what. Not every fish spawns at the drop of a hat, but I think it'll bring really good angling opportunities. Some fish up shallow, some fish on, the structure that, you could almost look at it again on a map and be like, yep, there's going to be fish there and they should be active. So,
well, I think a big mistake a lot of people make is they assume that everything's going to head deep right away afterwards, and they don't. A lot of the bigger fish stay up real shallow, and the little males are ones that go out deep the last time.
Yeah, it's as smallie fishing, in that early time frame, and well into even some where smallmouth are now post-spawn, I'm talking about that second week of June even. We've had walleyes that are, under 12 feet of water and shallower. So it's something that, again, these big females and stuff, they're going to hang around in the shallows a lot longer than I think most people might realize.
One thing, too, is going to be pretty productive, and you really got to think about whether you've got the decent weather to do this, but if you can get out in the first couple of weeks of May and you hit those areas just right around those flats where the spawning areas were, hit them with crankbaits in the evening or even after dark, and you can get some really nice fish.
Oh, gosh, yeah, and that's something to think about, Think about where maybe you've caught fish that or seen fish that are, are spawning in an area. These fish are really not that far. They're just staged out on structure that's close by, nearby, and they're there for a reason. They're there to eat.
Mm-hmm. And I want to talk a little bit about trout fishing. I know you showed me a couple of pictures here of some really nice steelhead. You've been doing a little bit of that.
Yeah, it's a great time of the year for, obviously, you kind of can pull a name out of the hat and see what you want to do. It's kind of like the fall, you got so many things going on, but
very little time.
And so time is the essence to get out and enjoy it. But yeah, doing some steelhead fishing, like I said, we did get a little stint of water in the system. So, levels got a little bit to be more favorable, being that there wasn't as much snowpack on, say, like opener up there. There was snow on the ground still, like a traditional steelhead opener there would be, but a little less snow melt, which then, we are dependent then on that rain to drive some fish up shallow or drive them from the lake into the river. Being that we had such a mild winter, we actually had a lot of fish that are already up in the river that had, before the opener type of thing. You always have fish from the previous fall, but that drove a lot of fish in. So there's a lot. There's going to be, if we get another big stint of rain, there'll most likely still be another big push of fish available. And now we're starting to see some fish, we call them dropbacks, fish that have spawned. They have already done their song and dance, and now they're working their way back to the lake. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing, because those fish, just like those walleyes, they're hungry. They need to eat, and they want to be able to eat as they go down river back out to the big lake. So this time of year can be really, really effective. Take your pick on how you'd like to target these fish. But a lot of options for anglers to be able to get out up there. The south shore of Wisconsin is crawling with steelhead water. And then obviously our most notable one, the Boise Brule, there's basically from US 2 all the way back to the lake, anglers are able to go out and target these migratory fish.
And a lot of people head up there and troll out there too on the main part of the lake and the bay.
Yeah. You talked about trying to pick out certain things, you want to do. And that South Shore, as soon as there's open water, there's guys out trolling and getting after it right away, which is great. And so, again, you can kind of take your pick on what you want to target and do and, spend the day doing. But, if you get a big wind out there, you might, you might go hide and go fish in a river instead. So,
Well, Erik, a lot of great stuff there. You want to give out some information on how to get a hold of you if somebody's looking for a guided trip or a fly fishing trip?
Yeah, they can definitely reach out direct to me if they'd like to. My phone number is area code 612-384-9127. Otherwise, they can also call the Hayward Fly Shop and get on their books to get a day out on the water with me or one of the other guides.
Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks, John. Always a good time.
Well, folks, we're about out of time for this week's show. I'd like to remind everyone out there that if you miss a show, go to our website at wnoradio.com. From there, you can link to our podcast site, and the show is also on Spotify and Google Podcasts every week. And also, if you're looking for information on vacationing and lodging here in the Hayward Lakes area, check out the Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau website at haywardlakes.com. Thanks for listening, folks. We're out of time, and we'll be back again next week with another interesting show for you.
Listen with me, I'm gonna take you there to our Wisconsin outdoors, our Wisconsin outdoors.
This program has been produced and hosted entirely by Wisconsin Northland Outdoor Communications. Any and all views expressed are not necessarily those of the station.